This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Friday Black-Eyed Susan Day, and we'll have plenty of Pimlico discussion. I'm here obviously live in the studio, but live via phone from the Baltimore area. Our friend Brian Addo. Good morning, Brian.
Yes, good morning. From actually right now a dry Baltimore, Maryland area, but the rain, as predicted, is coming later. But honestly, as I drove yesterday, it wasn't quite as bad as they talked, and it hasn't been as bad as they talked up to now. So fingers crossed, but it does appear to be coming a little later.
And just before we get into some of the action here, let's just tout the reason you're down there. If anybody from our area is about to hop in the car and maybe head down for today and or tomorrow, they should head into the infield and the Horse Player Now tent where, what is it, player advocacy? What is the title of the tent action that you and Jeremy and the crew do down there?
It's kind of, fan appreciation is not the right word. We're basically instructing and showing people how to bet, or if they have questions, that kind of thing. We've done it 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 years now. Big Tent, as you mentioned, on the infield, fans can come in, say hi if they have any questions, or if they're looking, anyone that, we'll get people that have no idea what they're doing and have never bet a race to people, looking to structure pick 4 tickets and things like that. So we have a lot of fun with it. We're there all day on Saturday. And so, yeah, like you said, the infield, if you haven't been or aren't in the loop, the infield on Preakness Day is one heck of a party. So check it out. We'll be in there. I believe, don't quote me, but I think they're opening the infield now at 9 as opposed to 8 o'clock. So we've got to get final word on that. But regardless, we'll be in there early. We'll be in there often. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Jeremy has done the tent at various tracks. Did it up at Saratoga for a few years. And certainly a place like that, the infield, where I'm sure a lot of people are brand new to the game. And some people are just happy to go to listen to the concert and probably don't pay attention to the horses. But I'm sure some people think, hey, I've never been to a racetrack. You can make some money. And so you guys help them do that. And the folks are headed down for tomorrow. Swing by the Horse Player Now tent in the infield. All right, let's jump right in and get to some of the action. You got to cut out at about 9:35, so we're going to kind of fast forward here to race number 4 at Pimlico. There are selections on the website for the entire card, but we'll just give some commentary from 4 onward so we can make sure we get to all the big races. The 4th race, you say, is still at this point scheduled on the turf, and the 4th race is a maiden special event, again, on the grass at 1 1/16. Your thoughts on race 4?
Yeah, right now, Seth, 2, 6, and 8 are on the dirt. They've said they're going to be on the turf today and tomorrow, so they took a few off. Right now, race 4 on the turf. 1-sheet selections, as always. 3-5 over to 7-10-2. Tough race here. I went with Dig Deeper. This is usually the time of year Goldberg gets going a little bit. He got this horse a tightener at Gulfstream. He's a local guy. You could surmise this was the goal all along. I think Dig Deeper off that return turf debut should be is going to run well in here. Style Icon for Graham is going the right way. Jose Ortiz is here. We'll be closing. Seth, I think it's a good idea. This might just be personal preference, but on days when you know the turf course is going to be soggy, it's going to have a lot of give in it, I want to see horses that have shown the ability to come from off the pace a little bit because you figure it's going to be a pretty demanding surface. Style Icon fits that. I think Andy Dupree is in the mix here, too. From up close, we go outside. Not in jeopardy. If nothing else, as experience over a course with turf course would give for local connection down inside Goodella, second off the long layup for Tommy Proctor, could move forward in a big way. Lots of different ways to go in here, Seth.
I had some of the same horses in my mix. 5, 12, 3, and 7. For me, I put Style Icon on top. One of the horses you didn't use that I did was number 12, Galileo's Melody. Style Icon, a Grand Motion horse. Galileo's Melody, also a Grand Motion horse, who I think is eligible to improve in the second start. And I'll toss in number 1, Agreeable, Trying the Turf. I wouldn't be surprised if that horse jumped up. Castellano on board and made a little noise in here. And the fourth, then, for me, 5, 12, 3, and 7. Stakes action kicks off in race number 5, the Skipat, $100,000 up for grabs for the ladies going 6 furlongs. Your thoughts in the 5th?
3-4 over the 8 test. Start with Silver, a huge run on the slop. 3-back, February 18th in the Broadway. This is a state bred, but Linda Rice, Irad's here, stalking, closing style in a race where she should get some pace. And that sloppy run just stands out. The 96 buyer, I'm sure you've got that circled. So I think on a track that we know is going to have plenty of moisture in it, I think it is sloppy, actually, is what it's listed at right now, Seth. Start with Silver, I think, to mow these gals down. We go second, Miss Locust Point. I guess the horse to beat. It's not like she's overly fast on figures, though, so be careful, folks. But she is 6 for 9. She wants to beat you. She'll probably be on the lead for as far as she can take them. Easily toss the grade 1 comeback into Madison at Keeneland, which was a monster field. Vertical Oak, another. We saw it in our backyard. She freaked in the Prioress over the slop. She goes second off the long layoff, too. She's eligible to improve, too. 3, 4, 8 sets in the skip out.
I went 8, 4, 3, 1. I put Vertical Oak on top on the early speed, and also the win over the track. Has some nice workouts coming into this. The last was a sloppy track third, pretty good third down at Oak Lawn, or a decent third. Showed a little speed in that one. I think with the early speed and some wet track experience, I put that one on top. Miss Locust Point, as you said, 6 for 9 in the career. Also has a wet track win, a couple of back in the Barbara Fritchie, and start with Silver from Linda Rice. Yeah, that off-track race kind of jumps out. And I'll remind people, as I was doing the handicapping show yesterday, on days like this, and virtually every track I looked at yesterday, Gulfstream, Pimlico, Belmont, they were all off as far as the weather conditions. And so you look at those wet track records, and sometimes there's a horse that just kind of stands out. And there was a couple of nice prices to be had yesterday as those kind of jumped off the page a little bit. The dry track recent races weren't so good, but you look back and the wet races showed a little something, as I say, maybe find a price. But in the 5th at Pimlico, 8, 4, 3, and 1. 6th race at Pimlico, it's an allowance, non-winners of 1 other than. And again, 6 races on or off the grass?
It's off, Seth.
Okay.
8 are off, so take note of that, folks. It's a real, as we do this now, and I just hit the old refresh button, no scratches yet. The definition of a crapshoot, but we'll give it a go here.
All right, so was scheduled for 5 on the grass, now on the main track, race number 6.
Yeah, I go 7, 12, 2 sets, and again, we don't know if any of these horses are running for that matter, but Shoe loves Shoe for DePaz and Sagamore, local connection, good dirt races at Aqueduct over the winter. I think that sets him up to run well here. 4th on a good track, at Laurel in January. I frankly don't know if that means anything today, because this will not be a good track. This will be messy out there, folks. Take note of that. Best Yes ran well last time on a muddy track at Laurel to be second. I would think that puts him in the mix here. And then down inside the MTO, In Arrears is in the mix. Couple good seconds on off track, has a win. 4 out of 6 in the exacta. Like I said, we don't, at this point in time, we don't know what's going on here in the 7th. But if it does, if my guys are in there, 7, 12, 2 in that spot.
I had 7, 9, 2, and 5. I'm with you. Shoe loves Shoe. Won on the turf last time, but the race right before that was a good dirt win. So I put that one on top with the surface switch. Cobb, the number 9 horse. This is a horse that has only started on the dirt, so I didn't think it was going to be a negative for this one to make the switch with the weather, but that noted 2 back on a muddy track didn't run so well. That was the only off-track race, though, so I'll give this one another look. And then in arrears, entered main track only, belongs as well. Race number 6 at Pimlico, on the dirt, 7, 9, 2, and 5. In the 7th race at Pimlico, we get back to stakes action in the Miss Preakness Grade 3 event. $150,000 up for grabs as 3-year-old fillies will go 6 furlongs in race 7.
This would be my best bet of the day, Seth, and I will say the off track throws a little monkey wrench in it, but still, 1 over the 8-10. I love Happy Like a Fool today, Seth. Second off the long layout. I thought she ran fine to be 4th in the Beaumont last time at Keeneland in a tough spot, going 7 off the bench against a pretty decent field. Cuts back to 6 today, as I mentioned, second off the layoff. And the thing I really like, Seth, she has a stalking gear in a race where basically everyone else kind of wants to hear their feet rattle a little bit early on. I think it's going to bode well. I would think she just breaks from the gate, and finds a little spot, and then tries to get maybe outside to get the mud to kick back off of her. I think Happy Like a Fool's in a great spot. Should be fair value, too, because there's a lot of different ways to go in here, Seth. I've got Almond Roca underneath with a little stalking gear cutting back for Graham off the 2-turn turf race. And then the limited view, as you can kind of tell, the 3 gals I used are the ones I think are going to come from off of it. And that's the way I played this race. You look at Artistic Diva, you look at Legendary, you look at Good Move. The 3 favorites, definitely contenders, definitely win candidates. They all want to go early, Seth. And I just don't know, over a track that's probably going to be pretty demanding, if they can last going 6 furlongs, eye and eye with each other the whole way around. That's how I played it.
I put Good Move on top, 9-8-6-3, and I will say, given the running style we've seen so far, she may just have been better than those groups, and so might have the ability to stalk and pounce. That said, that bullet workout at Churchill most recently probably says it's the go button this afternoon. But 2 for 2 for Brad Cox. Comes in from Oaklawn. I like all of those factors. She could be any kind. I'll put Good Move on top. Almond Roca in the 2nd spot. I'm going to draw a line through the turf tribe most recently down at Tampa and look at the return to dirt to be beneficial for her. And then in the 3rd spot, I will use Legendary, the Rudy Rodriguez runner that just seems to be on the improve as far as the buyer numbers at least, and seems to really have figured it out in the past couple of starts with a couple of nice improving 80 buyer figures, breaking the maiden and then winning the Cicada last time at Aqueduct. So in race 7, the Miss Preakness for me, 9, 8, 6, and 3. Pimlico's 8th race, it's an allowance non-winners of other than. Again, was originally scheduled on the grass, and now Brian says we have moved to the main track in race number 8. Your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are it's a real bummer, Seth, because I like the price in here, but that's irrelevant now. I go 1-7-4, okay, on the main tracks. And again, folks, we don't have scratches. We don't necessarily know who's running right now. Pismo Time down inside has some pretty good dirt figures, back in 2016. But there was a good muddy run, at Pimlico right here in May of 2017. Now, the layoff's a little bit of a worry, but I like Eddie Graham. I think he does a good job, and he's another one of those locals. Don't sleep on this weekend, folks. Another one of those locals that, wants to win in front of the home crowd, that might have the screws a little tighter than normal off layoff. So I think Pismo Time is interesting down inside from off the pace a little bit. South Sea has good dirt form and is 3rd off a long layoff. Irad is here. Jump, Jive, and Whale, another horse with decent dirt form, decent runs, 2 wins over off track. I just don't know what you're getting in this race, Seth. Those are the ones I came up with. Scratches are going to be very, very key to what happens in race 8. As we mentioned, off the turf here, group, off the turf.
And you say 6 and 8 off the turf, and so the 8th race for me on the dirt, I went 13-4, 1 and 8. I went out to Royal Crusader, who most of the career, certainly most of the recent career, and in fact most of the career, 14 of the 18 starts have been on the dirt, and you go 2 back, 3 back. Those were pretty good efforts. So I think the switch to this surface will be beneficial for this horse. Royal Crusader on top. I used in the 2nd slot the number 4 horse. Jump, Jive, and Whale, who, again, you go down the page and you're looking at dirt races, and so I think this horse benefits from the surface switch. And then Pismo Time in the third spot. So for me, in race 8 at Pimlico, 13-4-1-8. Let's do one more before we take a break, and the one more is the Pimlico Special. Grade 3 event, $300,000 up for grabs for runners in the handicap division that will go 1 mile and 3/16. Your thought in the Pimlico Special?
Yeah, I really like something awesome in here, Seth. It's 8 over the 3-7. How can we get 5-1 on this horse? I don't know. The last 2 races have been huge. They're also the last 2, the 2 races at 1 mile and an 8. So it tells me that 1 and 3/16 Preakness distance is within his scope easily. He's got form, 2 for 3 on an off track. He's tactical. I think there's a lot of speed in here. And he's in the best form of his life. I love something awesome in here. He's a lone A in this pick 5, big pick 4. It started in race 7, pick 4 in race 8, 300 guarantee on each of them. Single him, something awesome in the Pimlico Special. Rated R Superstar. I don't know if he's good enough, Seth, but I think he will be running on late. His win at Keeneland in the Ben Ali was a little unfathomable, but really good too. And they walked that day, and he still mowed them all down with ease. He's going to get pace in here. Javier is here. I think Rated R Superstar at a price is pretty interesting as well. And then a Fleet Willie is 4 for 5 on off track, so I put him in third. I don't know if he's good enough, but he was close to something awesome at Charlestown. That kind of means I've got to like him a little bit here. If you haven't figured it out, I don't trust or have much use for Irish War Cry, One Liner, or Hedge Fund, who are your 3 favorites, who all 3 might be dueling on the lead with each other. Irish War Cry, I'm just, we've broken up. I have no use for him anymore. I love this horse. I thought he couldn't lose last time, and not only did he lose, he was abysmal. So I've got to make him prove it to me today at false odds off that kind of a race.
Yeah, I used those 3, but I couldn't use Irish War Cry on top. I went 2, 1, 5, and 9. A one-liner, lightly raced, 4 for 5 for Todd Pletcher. And I thought the 2 comeback races were nice and moving in the right direction, and might have one-liner primed for a really good effort this afternoon. Irish War Cry, I'm with you. I debated moving the horse farther down than I did, but I just didn't know what to make of the last race. It was horrible. And so has the horse just gone in the wrong direction? I need one more before I can really hang my hat on that thought. The seasonal debut was decent, but not spectacular. So I have question marks, but I just wasn't bold enough to leave the horse out of the mix. Hedge Fund, it's that time of year where I like the horses who are moving off of races at Oaklawn Park. This horse had a couple of the most recent races at Oaklawn for Todd, won the Essex, and then tossed in a little bit of a dud in the Oaklawn Handicap. I think this is probably a group, though, that this horse will run well against this afternoon. You may be right, though. Pace-wise, these maybe 3 that are out there kind of dueling it out. Even if it does, typically one of those kind of can survive. So we'll see how it plays out, though. In the Pimlico 9th, the Pimlico Special, for me, 2, 1, 5, and 9. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll complete our look at Pimlico for Black-Eyed Susan Day. And also, this is a handicapper support / Racing Across America. So a little bit later on, Dave Rodman will join us live from Pimlico. We'll get an update. And Jason Egan, who trains Good One Honey, who I think is a nice contender in the Black-Eyed Susan this afternoon. So plenty of show left. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
You know and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on Friday, Black Eyed Susan Day. Seth Merrow in the studio, Brian Edo live from Baltimore via phone. Brian will jump right back in and take a look at the remaining races at Pimlico leading to Black Eyed Susan. But let me not forget to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. Always appreciate their sponsorship. All right, the 10th at Pimlico today. And as Brian noted, 2, 6, and 8 this afternoon have already been moved to the dirt. 2, 6, and 8 on the dirt today. But the 10th, scheduled on the grass, stakes race, the turf sprint, $100,000. Your thoughts on race number 10?
Yeah, it's just 3-7 to the hoop here, Seth. I was fortunate enough to see Infamous twice in person down at Gulfstream. I think he might be the best turf sprinter in the country. I think he's a horse with a ton of upside, a ton of potential. He looked absolutely awesome stepping up and winning last time. He does face stakes foes today. I don't think there's much in here, Seth, to be honest with you, and I just think he's onward and upward. You go back and watch his last on tape, and it was just absolutely stunning. And the other thing is, I've got Hoagie in second. I think he catches Hoagie at the right time. You know, a couple of two-turn runs at Gulfstream, Gulfstream, and then the Maker's Mark. Certainly the Maker's Mark was an absolutely rock-solid Grade 1 race. And now he cuts back, but Hoagie doesn't have any speed to begin with, and now he's back to sprinting off those two-turn runs. So he might really get run off his feet today, Seth. And I worry about that. He's a really cool horse to root for. He's made over $1 million. They claimed him for $80,000. He's won a ton of money for Maker. Jose Ortiz is here. I wouldn't want him at a short price, cutting back, giving up a ton of lengths off the far, entering the far turn to my pick, Infamous. So I've got them on top, and that's it for me. Again, I just think there's an A and I think there's a B in this pick 5 and pick 4, and I'll play it that way. 3-7 in the Jim McKay, and don't forget, we are on the turf here, but that turf course is going to have plenty of give to it.
I flipped them, but I agree with you. I could have gone either way here. I went 7, 3, 4, and 1. I put Hoagie on top. I liked him in that Canadian turf when he stretched to a mile, and it played out just perfectly, where he was kind of able to use his sprint speed as they headed into the far turn and won that at a nice price. But that was the first of those 2-mile races. So the cutback, he may be up against it a little bit, but I think he is a bona fide turf sprinter, and that's kind of a specialty. So I tilted towards Hoagie, but Infamous certainly on the up and come and gets a little acid test here, but I think we'll be right in the thick of things. Oak Bluffs in the third spot for me. Again, turf sprinting kind of a specialty, but Oak Bluffs is very proficient at that specialty. Race 10 at Pimlico, the turf sprint for me, 7, 3, 4, and 1. All right, we move on to the highlight of Friday afternoon. Race number 11, the Black Eyed Susan, Grade 2 event. $250,000 up for grabs for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and an eighth. Our friend Roddy Valenti brings Coach Rocks back 2 weeks after a disappointing finish in the Kentucky Oaks. Certainly we're rooting for that one, but this race to me is interesting. Sarah Street for Kieran, I think, looks good. Again, coming up a little bit later on, I talked to Jason Egan, the trainer of Good One Honey. 2 for 2 so far. I think she's interesting. Red Ruby for the races down at Oaklawn. But which direction did you go in the Black Eyed Susan?
The dart landed on the 9 step, but I have zero conviction here. 9-4, 10-3-2. I don't trust any of them. I do think Sarah Street's best race is better, maybe even way better than any of these. I think she's going to be a pretty stiff favorite. I don't think you'll see anything remotely close to 4-1 unless the money on Roddy shows. And we know it's apt known to do that. But Sarah Street will win this easily if she runs back to the Gamely and how fast she ran. I just don't know if she can do it, Seth. And the other thing is there's a lot of speed in here going 9 furlongs. And I don't know how many of these gals want 9 furlongs over a track that's probably going to be pretty demanding. So, like I said, I put her on top, but I used 4 A's in here. Red Ruby's the one I think is pretty interesting because she's got a good number, and her best race was over a sloppy track at Oakland. Turns as well, and she can sit off the pace a little bit. And I think there's going to be some hitting in here, so I think she's very playable at a good number. Stakes on a Plane is my just absolutely dumb bomb of a horse. She's okay on figures. She's not way out of it. She's going to be closing. She adds Lasix today. She's going to get paced, and she's a giant number. And frankly, Seth, a B-level race. So if she moves forward a few lengths, why not? I mean, a maiden won this race last year, an Actress. So it's a race there for the taking. I've got Roddy in fourth. Coach Rocks. I just don't like her claim to fame was just winning a Gulfstream Park Oaks that just absolutely nobody ran in, and nobody closed, and it was a gapped out field. I don't trust her. And you mentioned, like you said, we're all rooting for her, obviously, but we're gambling here too. And then, like you said, it's a 2-week turnaround, Seth, and for a 3-year-old filly, that's a pretty big ask and something that you don't see too often. I'd be a little leery of that, but she's a player in here. She's got class in the race. I think doesn't have a ton of it. Midnight Disguise, I don't know what you're getting out of her. She was dreadful in the Gazelle last time.
She's out. That was the report.
Okay,
that was the report last night and early today. The little bit of a bruise. Now, I will say, in your defense, it's not on the scratch page, and so I would tell people
nothing was.
Yeah, I would tell people just keep a look. But what I read on Twitter was it was according to Linda Rice. There was a bruise and she's out. So I had her in my mix.
You're reading it on Twitter. That's frightening. Whoa.
I occasionally keep up with the Twitter things, but I had her in my mix too, but I've crossed her out of the mix at this point. Okay.
Yeah, well, even the maiden down on the rail with Hobby is not impossible in here. Like I said, Actress won the race last year. I think it's a spread kind of a race, and maybe hope chaos ensues and something funky happens and blows it up.
Yeah, and again, for me, it was 9-2-3-7. Look and make sure Midnight Disguise is out, because if she isn't, she could certainly be a player. But I'm tending to believe what I've read. So for me now, it's 9, 3, 7, and 4. I put Sarah Street on top as well. I thought the second behind Midnight Disguise 2 back was pretty good. The close-up finish last time in the Gazelle. It's Godolphin. It's Kieran. They tend to take their time with some of these horses, and so I think they're kind of picking their spots, and I think this is a good spot for career start number 5, so I'll put that one on top. Again, I had Midnight Disguise second and Coach Rocks for Roddy third, but now that one moves up. The Gulfstream Park Oaks was a follow-up to a nice maiden win. I think the horse is probably better than the Kentucky Oaks. You don't read it in the trouble line, but if folks go back, certainly the NBC broadcast highlighted it because they had a camera right on the turn. And I would imagine if you go and look at the replays and look at the head-on, you will again get that camera on the turn. She runs into a lot of trouble on the turn and really gets kind of jammed up. And Luis Saez said after the race, in fact, she clipped heels. So I'm going to give her a little bit of a pass on that one. And Coach Rocks, I think, could be a player today. Good one, Honey. 2 for 2. I think the number fired in the Weber City Miss is good enough to fit with this group, so I think she could be on the improve and a player in here. And then Red Ruby, I agree with you. The sloppy win in the Martha Washington 2-back kind of signals her as a must-use this afternoon as well. In the 11th, the Pimlico feature today, the Black-Eyed Susan. I have it 9, 3, 7, and 4. All right, race 12 is the Hilltop. Again, 2, 6, and 8 are off the turf. That means the Hilltop still scheduled for a mile on the grass. $100,000 for 3-year-old fillies. Your thoughts on the 12th?
Yeah, it's 8 over the 7-1, Seth. I mean, the way I am is 3 to 5 on the morning line in an 11-horse field. And that kind of tells you right there just how overwhelming she is over this field. Just lays over them. A second last time to Rushing Fall over yielding ground in the Appalachian. Rushing Fall won to 100 in here. So she, appears to be a free square over a course that she's supposed to get over too, as well, and that just adds to her appeal because if she was untested over off turf, soft turf kind of a thing, you'd say maybe there's something here, but she's proven she could handle that too. So I just think she mows this field down. Secret Message, is interesting. First-time Graham Javier is here. Decent runs on the poly at Turfway. She's got a little turf breeding into her as well. And like I said, I don't think you have to be a monster to run second in here behind the chalk, and maybe Graham just sweeps the exacta. Down inside, Peach of a Gal is decent form on turf, and it looks like it's an all-Graham motion trifecta as well. So maybe I think it was Linda Rice who ran 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Mechanicville a few years back up in our neck of the woods. Maybe Graham sweeps a try here, but this is all the way I am. It's kind of named the score time.
Yeah, I'm with you. 8-2-1-4. Rushing Fall and the way I am have to be 1-2 in this subdivision of 3-year-old fillies on the turf, and so this seems like a pretty easy spot for the way I am, given the talent level in, as I say, this subdivision. Super Striking, I put second. I'm going to draw a line through that Florida Oaks, the Tampa race, and I think if she gets back to the kind of improvement she was showing before, she can be in. And then Peach of a Gal in the third spot for Graham Motion, as you say. In the Hilltop, I have it 8-2-1-4. Finally, we'll just take a look at the 13th, the DuPont Distaff Grade 3 event, $150,000, mile and an eighth. Your thoughts on race 13?
7 over to 6-1, Seth. I like the tactical speed over Blue Prize, and I think that's a big deal in here because there's not a lot of speed in the race at all. I would think Jose Ortiz might get aggressive here, put her on the lead. You look through the field here, and no one wants to be in front, and Jose is a very aggressive rider in general, and this gal's been laying second a few times, so I would think she shakes out as the controlling speed, and I think it's going to make her tough to beat, too. She's got to win over an off-track. She just beat, one of her main rivals in Verve's Tail, who was that second, and then Furiously Kissed is really up against this stuff because she has no speed at all, and she is 2 for 4 over off-tracks, and she was a really good and surprising third in the Apple Blossom. But, I'm not a fan of Edie Bell. I think she's highly overrated, and, Unbridled Mo is not much either, so I think you can maybe pick apart that race a little bit. And Furiously Kissed is just, race flow standpoint is really up against it today. 7 over the 6-1. I think Blue Prize just maybe gallops into the ground.
I don't have much to add. 7, 6, 8, and 1 for me. I tossed the 8 in Doro Danza, who, they go to the race 2 back. That was pretty good down at Oaklawn. The Keeneland race was okay number-wise, but I think you get back closer to those Oaklawn races. So there's one at a little bit of a price I tossed in my mix. But the DuPont Distaff for me, 7, 6, 8, and 1. Brian, I know you got to go, but just before we let you go, quickly some thoughts on the Preakness because we won't have a chance to talk to you. I couldn't find anything clever. I'm going to interview John Service later on to play tomorrow on Racing Across America. I think Diamond King, if I was going to look for something clever, might be the way I go. But what are your thoughts on the Preakness tomorrow?
Well, I don't have anything to add. So I pick Good Magic, but it's I don't love them, but I just feel it'll be 4 times the price of Justify, who might have a slight issue and to deal with a foot that seemingly acted up, but I guess he's all set now. But it's been off track and it could rear its head again. And I think Good Magic will like to cut back. I think the big thing with Good Magic, if nothing else, the fact he's even here is a big deal because Chad wouldn't run if he wasn't tearing the barn down. I think that bodes well for him. But let's be honest, he's Justified. Not only is he the best horse, he's probably loose on the lead in a race where no one else can run with him early. Barring anything unforeseen, he's supposed to just do what he did in the Derby and beat a pretty weak group. Very weak group aside from Good Magic, that's for sure. I don't see any of the new shooters. There's no Red Bullets in here, Cloud Computings or anything like that. This is not a good group of new horses. So I would be stunned unless the track beats them or something if those two horses aren't 1-2 in some way, shape, or form.
All right, Brian, we'll let you go. Head to the tent, hand out some winners to the newbies.
Sounds good, Seth. I appreciate it. We'll catch up with you back home.
Sounds good. Brian Edo. And again, if you're headed down by any chance to Pimlico for the weekend, swing by the Horse Player Now tent in the infield and you catch up with Brian and our friend Jeremy Plonk as well. All right, I'll take a look quickly at the races we didn't get a chance to look at, 14, and then I'll go back and do 1, 2, and 3 as well because we have a couple of minutes here before we're joined by Dave Rodman a little bit later on. 14th at Pimlico this afternoon, then wrapping things up with a post time of 6:31, scheduled post time of 6:31. An allowance non-winners of 1 other than 5 furlongs on the grass. And again, according to scratches and changes posted right now, 2, 6, and 8 have been taken off the turf. The remaining turf races stay on this afternoon. But in the 14th, I have it 1A, 9, 6, and 12. The 1A is a great time. Has to make it in from the AE list. And again, there are no scratches showing at this point. They just have those surface changes. So we'll see. A great time is too deep on the AE list, so does need some help to get in. But if this horse does make it in, came back off a long layoff last time with a pretty good-looking second-place finish for Mike Trombetta. So I think we'll be set up to run well today if the horse can get in from the AE list. Magical in the second spot. This horse, nice second in the career debut, followed up with a good win. The question mark, they were both on the dirt. This horse would be my top pick if the race got rained off the turf. But also, I just think by Tapit and the two good starts so far, they're going to put my trust maybe in the connections to be making a decent move to the turf here. I think Magical can be a player. An Electric in the third spot for Jonathan Thomas. Good win down at Tampa last time in the seasonal debut. The start of the career in New York was okay, but seems to have moved forward now as a 4-year-old. Only 4 career starts, so maybe some upside still there for Electric. And if A Great Time doesn't make it in, also in my mix was the number 12, Line of Music. This is a horse that has actually had 11 career starts and 3 wins, and this is a non-winners of one other than. But, of course, the maiden race doesn't count, and the last couple were optional claimers where the horse was in for a tag. Those were 2 wins. So comes in with a couple of wins and maybe a cozy fit in the condition, number 12, Line of Music. So race 14 at Pimlico this afternoon, 1A, 9, 6, and 12. Let's go back to race number 1. Again, when we started with Brian, we kind of skipped to race 4. So just to give you some ideas in those first 3 at Pimlico, don't forget, it's an early post time today. Things will kick off in race 1 at 11:30 this morning at Pimlico in the opener. Maiden Specials going 6 furlongs. I have a 3, 7, 2, and 1. Brian said it at one point. He said, well, the dart landed here. This is, to me, a real dartboard race, the opener of Pimlico. You have some first-time starters that I think potentially have a little bit of life, and the horses with races under their belt seem kind of competitive and maybe evenly matched. I went with Timeless Curls on top by Curlin, so I thought there was some breeding punch. And trainer Dale Capuano can clearly have them ready first time out of the box, albeit with a small sample overall, but good numbers on that small sample. So I'll go with number 3, Timeless Curls on top. Warrior of Light had trouble last time. That looks like a race you can draw a line through for Michelle Nevin. That was on a move down to Maryland from New York for Michelle. And again, I'm going to draw a line through that more than, it's one of those you can look at, didn't appreciate the move out of town necessarily, but it's just an aberration. Given the trouble, that seems like the reason. And so we'll look for a rebound from Warrior of Light. And of those that have run, this is probably the horse to beat. And in the third spot, another first-time starter, Holiday Time by Lemon Drop Kid. Trainer fires, again, with a limited sample, but at a pretty good high percentage number overall. So Holiday Time seems like a player in race 1 at Pimlico, 3, 7, 2, and 1. Race number 2 at Pimlico on Friday afternoon. Again, 2, 6, and 8 off the turf. So this is an optional claim or non-winners of 2 other than on the dirt now in race 2. My dirt selections, 10, 5, 8, and 9. Number 10 is Sneaky Betty. This one is a main track only entrant, and boy, you go to the race 2 back, that was pretty good. The race last time was a good race. The number went in the wrong direction a little bit. I'm looking for the number to get closer to maybe what we saw 2 back. Also, if you go 4 back, there was a pretty good try on a sloppy track. So it has a number of things going for it. Gets the main track only we were looking for, has some off-track experience. Sneaky Betty on top. Ladies Privilege in the second spot. This horse most recently has been on the turf, but you go back to August, there was an off-the-turf event. Pretty good second-place finish. So if Ladies Privilege, Michael Metz decides to keep this one in with the move to the main track, I wouldn't ignore the horse given what we saw in that off-the-turf event 4 starts back. Third spot, we will go to So Innocent. On the turf last time, a nice win. Race before it on the dirt, a nice win. So again, some wet track experience that's okay, and dirt experience just a couple races back that says the surface switch will be not a problem necessarily. Race number 2 at Pimlico, again on the dirt, 10, 5, 8, and 9. Race number 3 at Pimlico on Friday afternoon. Optional claimer, non-winners of one other than. They'll go 6 furlongs. I have the third race, 3, 7, 4, and 9. Sower on top. Linda Rice trainee that went down to Laurel for the career debut, and boy, just kind of blew him away and did it with a number that has an edge on most in here. I don't see any reason why this horse can't go back-to-back given what we saw last time. 3 on top, number 7, Happiness in the second spot. Career debut down at Tampa was huge for Tommy Proctor. Went in the wrong direction in career start number 2, but there was potentially a little bit of trouble there. Slow start and then maybe rushed up, and so that may have played into things. I'll look for Happiness to get back closer to what we saw in the career debut. And Zorley, the number 4 horse, yet another one with a huge career debut. This is career start number 2. The question mark on Zorley is the career debut was in a maiden 40 claimer. But do note, was in for the waiver that day. Down in Maryland, it's kind of interesting. We'll talk about this a little bit later when we talk to Jason Egan, the trainer of Good One Honey. Maryland, I like this. It's a boost to the state bred program. They have maiden claiming races down there where if you're a Maryland bred, you can get in for a waiver, so you're not in for the claiming tag. So as I say, it's a little boost to the Maryland bred program. I think it's a nice idea. But keep that in mind when you look at Zorley, because you might think, oh, broke the maiden in a maiden claimer, but it was a waiver, so the horse was kind of taking advantage of that. So off of that nice debut, Zorley looks like a contender in the third at Pimlico as well. I have it 3, 7, 4, and 9. All right, let me hit on some of the promos. We didn't get a chance to do that at the top of the show. Promos and events here at Capital OTB. Of course, tomorrow is a Preakness Day, and do want to alert you, the first 200 people through the door here at the Clubhouse Racebook, they get a collector's glass. So a little bonus. You win before you even place a bet if you're one of the first 200 people here. 711 Central Avenue in Albany, Clubhouse Racebook on Preakness Day. We'd love to see you down here. It's always a lot of fun on the big days to have a big crowd in the house. Bet 50, get 50 continues through the end of the month. Sign up for a brand new Capital Bets account, and as soon as you bet $50 into your brand new account, you get $50 put into your account by Capital OTB. Free money, always a good thing. Don't forget, if you want to swing by and play some slots and play the Preakness, you can do it now at the Rivers Casino down in Schenectady. It is our newest branch location. The Rivers Casino in Schenectady. It opened Kentucky Derby weekend, so a couple of weeks now, things have been active down there. Swing on by and visit the newest Capital OTB branch location, the Rivers Casino down in Schenectady. Also want to alert you, Cityline Pub, the Betmobile will be there again this weekend, as it was on Derby weekend. That's certainly an option for food and beverage and a good crowd, and a little bit of betting on the Preakness as well. Cityline Bar and Grill in Albany. The Betmobile will be there on this Preakness weekend. Also want to alert you, programming note as far as tomorrow morning. Again, another early start because of the early post times at Pimlico this weekend. We will be on tomorrow with Handicapper Support / Racing Across America starting at 8 o'clock. We'll go from 8 to 9:30 tomorrow morning. So keep that in mind. Tune in, 8 o'clock tomorrow. Handicapper Support and Racing Across America. Our buddy Mike Callahan will be sitting in live with me tomorrow. We'll have thoughts, of course, on the Preakness card at Pimlico. All right, we'll take a break. As promised a little bit earlier, we'll reach out to our buddy Dave Rodman down at Pimlico. We'll get some live commentary and much, much more. Stay tuned.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. It's Friday morning, Black-Eyed Susan Day. What better day to reach out to our friend Dave Rodman, track announcer down in Maryland, Laurel and Pimlico. Dave, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Seth. Like old times, right? Haven't talked to you in a while.
It has been a while. I texted you the other day, and I said during the break, though, I laughed. It was about a week ago when the horse Earned It won a race down there, and you threw in a little John Houseman imitation as the horse came under the wire, and you and I were both talking. There's probably a limited number of people in the audience who got the John Houseman reference. What was that, Smith Barney, the old Smith Barney commercial?
Yeah,
but yeah,
Smith
I was
Barney,
in the studio. I was laughing.
Now, but it's been absorbed by another company. I don't know. I did that for all my for all my rich friends.
Yeah.
All one of them, you know.
Yeah, I'm not in that. I'm not in that group, but I still laughed. Before we get into some of the races and whatnot, I just wanted to hit on a couple of general things. First, earlier this week, unfortunately, it happened in Pennsylvania, but how about Edgar Prado, who's now based down in Maryland, getting career win number 7,000? Only, I think, the 8th jockey to do that.
Right, leading active rider Edgar Prado, and looking at the list, well, he did it at Parks. We were hoping he would do it in Maryland, but had a couple of good days at Parks out of town. And we're just happy for Edgar, Hall of Famer, obviously, just a great person who helps other people, and so humble about his success, and attributes everything, obviously, to his wife letting him ride for all these years and putting up with that, and giving it the props to the horse as well. That really have made his career. And one of the fan favorites here in Maryland, Prado Power, as we called it. I didn't call 7,000, but I had called one of his milestones. I forget whether it was 5 or 6, one of his earlier milestones. But looking at that list, interestingly enough, Edgar Prado's still riding, but Mario Pino's getting close to a milestone as well.
Oh, yeah.
And he's moved his tack to Delaware. Not ultra close, but he's riding for another year or so. He could be the next member of the club.
Prado, Angel Cordero, Russell Bays, Pinkai, Shoemaker, Pate, David Gall, who folks may not be familiar with, but certainly put in a big number of wins, and Chris McCarron. So pretty good list he joined. And as I say, based down in Maryland, but broke the the record just the other day at Parks as he took a little sojourn over there. Also, Dave, want to talk a little bit about the weather, and I went to your Twitter feed, and I saw you had a picture this morning of the Sunrise Tour on the backstretch, and it didn't look at that point like it was raining. Give us a little update on the weather there.
No, this morning, originally it called for heavy rain starting this morning, but it's been sprinkling. There's a decent little sprinkle going on right now. Actually, it looks like it may have stopped. So the rain not as heavy, but just the fact that we've had 3, 4, 5 inches of rain over the last few days, plus more to come today, later today, they say, and then through tomorrow morning. Improving perhaps by Preakness time, but obviously it's going to be a wet track, sloppy or muddy tomorrow, maybe if it dries up a little bit by Preakness. Not really much sunshine in the forecast. And the turf course, though, I do have to mention, is in exceptional shape today. Races 2, 6, and 8. 2, 6, and 8 are off the turf, it has been announced. We'll run all other races on the turf. I actually had to walk across there to go to the post position draw the other day. And if you had dropped me in with a blindfold and said, give me a turf course condition without being able to see the surroundings around me, I would have gone anywhere from firm to good. Now, it's had more rain since then, but certainly in exceptional shape. The rail will be out at 20 feet today, as it has been all meet. And tomorrow they'll take off that temporary rail and go back to really virgin turf that has not been set foot on or hoof on all meet long here at Pimlico. So hoping for a lot of horses to remain in those turf races, good competitive cards.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear, because there is a lot of nice turf racing over the next couple of days, so we certainly want that to hold together. Also, just wanted to toss in, as I looked at your Twitter feed, you had a shot from the Alibi Breakfast, and I've said it before, you guys down there in Maryland, you know how to eat at the racetrack. The holiday time, you give away the free pies, and at the Alibi Breakfast, the crab cakes. Those look good.
I was going to put 2 shots on there, the crab cakes and the fried chicken, and a neck-and-neck race down to the wire is most popular, but I think the fried chicken won because there was only one piece left, and I didn't want to, embarrass the crab cakes there. But those are the 2 most popular dishes. That one year that they took away the fried chicken, there was an uproar. It was almost a boycott. But, the media enjoyed it. Had several worthy honorees this year at the Alibi Breakfast, and, of course, chats with the trainers and connections to the Preakness horses. It's a tradition here in Baltimore on the Thursday before Preakness. Good food and a packed house.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, our buddy Tom Law from right up here in Saratoga works with the Clancy brothers on Saratoga Special and whatnot. He was an award winner, right? Tom Law?
Yes, he did. Yeah. And Chris Dashel, kind of on a local angle. He's been the behind-the-scenes guy with a lot of the many, many hours of coverage on local television here on the affiliate that gives us, that's our Preakness partner here at WBAL. And he's gone through some health problems recently, but he's back on the job and producing all that great television for people to see, and especially for people who may not have been to the track before or can't make it out on Preakness Day. And Edgar Prado was the honorary postmaster. He was there as well, celebrating his milestone of 7,000.
Oh, nice. And Dave, before again...
Janine Edwards, I got to mention her, of course, too.
Oh, right. Yeah, she was...
Yes,
Yes.
I didn't leave anybody out. I'm sure I did.
The now retired Janine Edwards.
Yes, who was the handicapper on air, as you remember, many years ago at the Maryland Jockey Club. I worked side by side with her on the air in my early years here.
Just before we get to races, I want to touch on one more topic because as I've been watching Pimlico the last few days, it was a little disconcerting the first few races I watched as I was doing the handicapping show, because the backstretch, they cut to a backstretch camera. I'm assuming that has to do with maybe the stage, the tents, the infield goings on, making it difficult for the cameras on the front side to pick up the backstretch action. But what does that mean for you, the announcer?
It's like a mini city out there. The first turn on the turf, around that first turn as they head toward the turn for the backstretch, is not, you can't see anything on there. So, but that's the small part of it. Starting from about 4.5, where the mega stage is, all the way to just before the 5/16, you can't see the turf nor the dirt. So it's completely blocked, with the exception of maybe about a 1/16 of a mile as they head around that far turn. So Pimlico put up some great camera angles, and also today and tomorrow we will be using NBC Batcam camera angles for the feed. So many times, indeed, they're calling from binoculars, and then when they're obscured, maybe sometimes going to the TVs, other times just kind of hemming and hawing until they emerge from behind the obstructions that are in the infield. It's certainly some getting used to, but after a few days, just kind of getting the hang of it. Just another challenge, I guess.
Yeah, well, you do a great job.
Both for me and also for Larry Colmus on NBC, who'll be calling.
Yeah.
He's not far from me to the left, and he's actually a little bit lower than I am, but so we kind of worked it out, talked about it yesterday, and he did a couple of practice runs, and we both seem pretty comfortable with the situation now.
Yeah, you do a great job as usual. All right, let's get some thoughts on a couple of the big races. The Black-Eyed Susan today. Let's hit on that first. While we talk, I pulled up the Busher from early in March. Number 3, Midnight Disguise will win. Number 1, Sarah Street runs second. Now the word is Midnight Disguise will be scratched because of a little bruise. I put Sarah Street on top, and with the scratch of Midnight Disguise, I moved Coach Rocks up. That's for our friend Roddy Valenti, the locally based owner up here in Albany. Good One Honey. I have an interview with Jason Egan coming up that I taped yesterday. I think that local entrant is kind of interesting in here, and Red Ruby for me. But I put Sarah Street on top, and again, we're watching this one run second back in the Busher. Subsequently, Sarah Street came back and ran a good second in the Gazelle. What are your thoughts on the Black-Eyed Susan?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting prospect that Midnight Disguise may come out. I like Sarah Street because she's got some good natural early speed to splash on or near the pace, and her dam was an off-track winner as well, and so she looks like she has good tactical speed. But, speaking of tactical speed, Good One Honey, the local filly, was an eye-catching winner in her debut for maiden $40,000, the Maryland bred, and mentioned several times in the call that she could be, she got into trouble and she could be a good one, et cetera, et cetera. And then she pops up with a 67 unimpressive buyer number, which, made us all kind of scratch our heads. Well, obviously she proved that buyer number was a little bit better, perhaps because of the trouble in that race. She came back in the Weber City Miss as the prep to get into this race and a win in your in race. Went wire to wire, and the impressive thing about her was not necessarily a 7-length win, but her 23-3, 46-3, good middle early fraction there. She has enough speed, I think, to go to the front if she wants, and she just might try that today. That would be a great win for good guy Jason Egan, who worked for many good trainers over the years, including Michael Trombetta. And he's got a small stable, but his name, young trainer, getting known here in the Mid-Atlantic, and this will give him some great national, well-deserved recognition if he should get a good showing here with his Great Notion filly, Maryland-bred Good One Honey. It's our local rooting interest.
Yeah, and as I said, I have an interview with him that I taped yesterday coming up. We touched on a few of those topics. He thought the buyer in the career debut probably should have been a few ticks higher, and that certainly was that thought was validated by the win in the Weber City Miss. And we also talked about some of the trainers he's worked with over the years as well. All right, let's move on to the Preakness, tomorrow's feature. And while we talk, I'm going to pull up the Tessio. From April 21st. The number 6 Diamond King is going to be the winner here. They entered in the Peter Pan last week, scratched out of that to try this spot in the Preakness. I have to admit, I find it hard to make real arguments against the top 2 from the Derby, Justify and Good Magic, but I suppose if I'm going to look for something a little bit clever, it will be Diamond King. I thought the win in the Heft in December, that's where this one started to hit my radar screen, and I thought that was a good win. Subsequently, a third in the Swale, and then followed up with this win in the Tessio. So as I say, it's tough to get past the top 2 from the Derby, but Diamond King is interesting to me. What are your thoughts on the Preakness?
Yeah, well, when he won the Heft at Laurel, he looked like a good one to me, and I thought all along that he would probably find a place in the starting gate in the Preakness, but at that time, who knew that he would face the likes of a Justify, back then when he was 2. Justify hadn't even started, right? So Diamond King, good prep in Tessio. Holland Park, who was second, ran a big race, waiting for that horse to run back soon. He looks great. He looks. I just think maybe I would have liked to have seen maybe one more route race under him before coming into the Preakness Stakes. That's just my opinion. I mean, he's had 2 races this year. A sprint at 7 furlongs in the Swale, and then once around the Laurel Main track, it was 9 furlongs and a mile and an eighth there. But, you know, a horse like Lone Sailor is kind of interesting to me because he came in the other day and took a stroll around the track. And to me, he was gliding over the sloppy surface here at Pimlico. So he's kind of interesting for my long shot underneath in the Preakness Stakes. Maybe a little bit biased there because he's trained by a fellow New Orleanian, Tom Amos, that I called his first stakes winner back in the day at Louisiana Downs. But I think the way he looks, if you're looking at horses that have trained well over this track, he's got everything going for him. The question is he fast enough to run a big one in the Preakness?
And just before we let you go, I wanted to get an opinion going to race 7 tomorrow, Saturday, the Dixie. World Approval. I put World Approval on top in that race, but boy, you know, the Kilroe, you left scratching your head, but did win the Dixie last year. And again, that last race looks like such an aberration, and having won the Dixie last year, I had to put World Approval on top. But what were your thoughts on World Approval and the Dixie tomorrow?
Yeah, I looked at that race last night and thought it was absolutely wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you got to look at Divisadero, but, you know, he's a stone-cold closer. I don't know how the turf's going to play. You know, probably going to be, it's obviously going to be on the yielding side. Will he have enough pace ahead of him? Might want to take a look at a Maryland bred. Just Howard is a long shot in there from the Graham Motion barn. I know he was unsuccessful going to the West Coast in a couple of tries at Santa Anita and Del Mar against Grade 2, Grade 1 company. But he's a horse who's really come around since the addition of blinkers, is more settled, and gets Jose Ortiz tomorrow. And another horse that I know they thought the world of early in the career, Unbridled One, is in here, and he comes to us here in Maryland, the Jose Corrales' barn for Stronach Stables. Done some great work with obviously Something Awesome. Taking a look at him in Pimlico Special today. That's first time gelding, and he's an interesting play as well. If you can get somewhere 8-10 to 1 with Hall of Famer Edgar Prado aboard. World Approval's last couple of races to me just haven't been as sharp, obviously, as his previous runs as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, he's one of the interesting storylines on the weekend. Dave, as always,
that's an open race, Seth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost an all button to me.
Yeah, I agree. Dave, as always, appreciate the visit, and looking forward to a big weekend down there in Baltimore at Pimlico. Black-Eyed Susan Day today, Preakness Day tomorrow. Good luck, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, Seth. Great talking to you. Good luck.
Dave Rodman, track announcer down at Laurel and Pimlico. Little update live from Baltimore on this Black-Eyed Susan Day. We'll come back after this break. And again, taped a nice interview yesterday with Jason Egan, the trainer of Good One Honey. We'll listen to that when we come back from this break. Stay tuned.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, OTB TV is the Capital Region's choice for the most comprehensive and informative coverage of thoroughbred and harness racing. OTB TV is the only area network delivering a steady viewership, reaching more than 540,000 households throughout the broadcast day and into the evening. Capital OTB's digital presence also plays a tremendous part in getting your message in front of potential customers. With more and more wagering moving to online, CapitalOTB.com can put your message in front of thousands of potential customers 24 hours a day. And with the addition of our new mobile app, new customers will see your message on all their digital devices. To see how affordably you can reach thousands of new customers, contact Capital OTB's Sales and Marketing Department today.
You're unbelievable. Are your favorite tracks in Florida, but you're in upstate New York? With Capital OTB, Tampa Bay Downs and Gulfstream Park are closer than you think. With more than 60 easy bet and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all easy bet and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back. Again, yesterday caught up with Jason Egan. He is the trainer of Good One Honey. I think a competitive entrant in the the Black-Eyed Susan this afternoon. As Dave Rodman said, he'll be the local rooting interest. She'll be the local rooting interest coming out of a couple of races and a couple of wins at Laurel to start the career. The Weber City Miss win last time, I thought, fired a number that fit with this group, and I thought it was a good chance also to introduce you a little bit to a trainer that you may be unaware of, a little under the radar, but as Dave Rodman said, kind of an up-and-comer. Jason Egan, trainer of Good One Honey. We'll take a listen to that. Stay tuned. Happy to be joined now by Jason Egan, who I think has a live runner in Friday afternoon's Black-Eyed Susan. I always like on these big days to look for some of the hometown horses, and that fits Good One Honey to a T. Jason, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Seth. Thanks for having me on.
Happy to have you on and talk a little bit about Good One Honey and your background a little bit. Let's start with that. For folks who don't follow Maryland racing maybe closely on a day-to-day basis, just give us a little bit of your background. How did you get into the game?
Well, I grew up in Seattle. So I started going to the track at Long Acres out there with my dad when I was little. He had a horse or two that he owned with some of his friends before I was born, and he always enjoyed handicapping after that. So we'd go to the track most weekends, and that was kind of my introduction to it. As I got older, I got more interested in the animal side of it and, training and trying to learn as much about horses as I could. So just kind of set out to learn as much as I could about that and decided I wanted to try to make a career out of it. So from there, ended up at the University of Arizona racetrack program, which Baffert and Pletcher are probably our two most famous alums, at least as far as trainers go. And after that, just kind of set out into the working world and bounced around from a couple of different barns, but, had a lot of fun learning and working along the way.
And talk a little bit about that University of Arizona racetrack program, because over the years, as you say, Baffert and Pletcher, and just some people in the front offices, too, have come out of that. We've talked to a lot of graduates from there over the years. What was that experience like?
I thought it was really a great experience for me. It's a little tough, I think, if you want to get into the training side of things, to just don't have the resources to, put you in an environment like you're going to see every day as far as a training career goes. But it's certainly for anybody who's interested in racetrack management or working in the racing office and that kind of thing. It's a pretty cool course. You get exposed to a little bit of everything, kind of get your feet wet. There's certainly some great internship opportunities that you kind of make it what you want it to be. And we have a symposium every year in December that's pretty well attended by people all over the world. Certainly there's a lot of U.S.-based people in it, and a lot of alumni come back. It's a great program. As you had mentioned, there's alumni all over the country. So, if you're looking for some kind of job, or too far to a friend, and probably coming up with something that might suit you.
Talk a little bit about, you talk about the hands-on side of things, and it sounds like when you graduated from the program, or maybe still in the program, an internship with Michael Dickinson, who nicknamed the Mad Genius. I'm guessing you walked away with some good hands-on experience with the Dickinson internship.
Yeah, Michael came out to the symposium in December, and I met him out there. We talked for a little while, and he ended up making a spot for me because he was just kind of at that point in his career where he was sort of halfway between training and wanting to get the surface company going. I had a great time out at his farm, certainly learned a lot. Michael's always got some great stories to tell and good jokes if you're into his humor. But, a guy like that, he's a little bit of an oddball for a lot of people as far as his methods and things like that, but he's hard to argue with his success.
It's great for a young guy, though, to get exposed to that, something a little bit different, and then you move more conventional, as I understand it. Spent some time with Mike, with Todd Pletcher, and then subsequently moved on to Mike Trombo, who we've had on the show up in Saratoga in years past when we do the backstretch morning shows. Talk a little bit about your experience with Pletcher and Trombetta.
Great experience with both, and they both came, at a time that just made a lot of sense for me. When I joined on Todd, I was still pretty green as far as, getting my feet wet in this industry. And Todd gave me a great shot. You're around top-class horses, first-class operation, the way that it's run. It's a great opportunity for somebody that, was in the position that I was, that you just want to learn as much as you can learn, because all you have to do is be a sponge and be willing to work. And you get exposed so much as far as the way things are done, how, horses are handled, that kind of thing. Managing top-quality horses, is always a bonus. And Todd's organization is run, really well, particularly for the size that it is. I mean, it's just incredibly efficient, top to bottom. Trombetta, when I left Todd, it just happened to be that because Kim Boniface was working for Todd at the time, and her family is obviously pretty well known in Maryland, she knew that Trombetta was looking for somebody to kind of oversee his travel and string between Delaware and Florida. And, I flew up from Florida after talking to Todd, about the opportunity, and he said, well, go meet with Mike and, see how it goes. And flew up and met Mike at Pimlico. We talked. He told me to kind of take a few days and think about it. And when I got back to Florida, I talked, with Todd and his assistant that was running things down there, and made the decision to go with Mike. And Mike was fantastic. He was incredibly fair with his time and teaching me, the way that he likes to do things. Obviously, he's had a pretty good measure of success on his own, in this business. Learned a lot from him, and I think we still have a really good relationship. We're stabled across the street from each other at Laurel. If I ever needed anything, Mike's the kind of guy that would do anything he could do to help you. So I'm grateful for the opportunity and, still having a friendship as well.
How long have you been out on your own now?
I went out on my own in April of 2011, so
okay.
the past 7 years.
And obviously you have a good one in the barn now, Good One Honey, the appropriately named filly, 3-year-old filly. Before we talk about a couple of the races, she's 2 for 2, but before we talk about that, I just want to talk, because I talk to trainers a lot, particularly when we're up at Saratoga on the backstretch, when I try to get a little background and just the nuts and bolts of the game. And I talk about when they have good horses, when do you realize you have a good horse? And it seems like it's a mixed bag. Sometimes they show it in the morning, sometimes they surprise in that first race in the afternoon. But it sounds like with Good One Honey, there was a workout that kind of stood out, that gave you an indication she may be a nice horse.
Yeah, she was, sort of a later bloomer, I guess. It wasn't quite waiting until race day to show you what she was made of, but her last work before she debuted, we worked her out of the gate with 3 other horses, and it was just kind of an eye-opening work. The way that she went about it and how easy she made it look against that group, and then they were all maidens at the time, but there were a few others in there that we had some hopes for, and still have some hopes for. That a couple of them that have run, one that's broken in spade, and another one that finished second. But she was clearly the best of the group that day, and it wasn't that she had ever done anything wrong prior to that. She just never did anything that really stood out or wowed you about her. She just kind of did what you asked her to do and went about her business. But that last work before she debuted was certainly the eye-opener that, well, we might have a little bit more than she's shown us here. And, we were just hoping that she would transfer it to the afternoon when it counted a little bit more.
And we're going to take a look at that career debut. I want you to talk about what you were feeling through this race, because we're going to watch the entire race here. It's 6 furlongs, and it's one of these races I like, the maiden claimers. But to boost the Maryland bred program, Maryland breds can get in with a waiver. So you didn't have to go in for the claiming price, gave you kind of a nice spot there. But she leaves from the 1 post position and gets out badly, and so she really had she was up against it, let's put it that way, right from the start in her career debut. She's the number 1 horse and gets it done in the first start of the career. This is back on March 24th. Take us through how you were feeling about this race from when she broke through the gate to finally coming into the stretch?
Well, I don't think you're ever thrilled when you draw the one hole as a first-time starter, no matter how well they might have appeared to prepare themselves in the morning. So, you know, that's obviously a concern. Certainly it came to fruition. You know, you're a little bit concerned when they get away poorly and, you know, she starts to make some headway up the backside, seemingly to put herself in a good spot. But, you know, you've seen enough first-time starters that don't break, rush up, and, you know, kind of stop. She ends up putting herself right on heels, you know, around the turn of forces in front of her. And, you know, you're concerned again that she's going to clip heels because she's really just crying out for a place to go and trying to run over top of horses. So, I mean, a lot of her trouble was certainly self-inflicted, you know, in that start. And just so happened that she got a chance to split horses at the top of the lane, you know, which is another thing that first-time starters don't typically do as easily as, or as readily as she did. And once she put her head in front, she just kind of drew off and continued to gallop out where the outrider had to pick her up. You know, there are a lot of anxious moments, you know, when you don't break, and then she certainly, you know, put herself in a dicey situation going around the turn, and I was a little concerned, you know, that Steve was going to be able to hold her in there. But he did a nice job, you know, finding some running room for her, and she did the rest from there. But, you know, all the trouble that she created for herself certainly gave you room to be optimistic for the future that, you know, everything we had seen the week before, you know, was kind of verified a little bit.
And what did the jockey Steve Hamilton have to say after that career debut?
Well, I mean, he was just impressed that she overcame, you know, the two instances of trouble that basically created for herself, and then still drew off the way she did and galloped out with a ton of energy. I mean, he had a heck of a time just getting her pulled up. So he was really impressed, you know, about how much horse he still seems to have even galloping out. I mean, she, you know, he felt like she really only ran about a quarter of a mile, you know, once she split horses. So, you know, I mean, for him, you know, you're always optimistic when they do something like that. I mean, you've been in this game long enough, you temper it a little bit. As you know, as you said, we used the waiver of 40, kind of find a little softer spot than the maiden special weight, you know, which is just using the condition book to our advantage. So, you know, he got a great performance, but maybe not against the best opposition that you could have run against. You know, but certainly you're happy with what you've done and looking forward to the future.
But then you get a chance to try stakes competition. From the way I read it, there just wasn't any real other opportunity in the book for her, so you got a chance to stretch out for $125,000 in the Weber City Miss. We're going to watch the stretch run here. Again, she is the one horse. She wins by a chart margin of 7 lengths here. The buyer jumps up about 20 points. How impressed were you with this follow-up performance?
Well, here's the thing. You know, you're right in the reason we ended up in the stake, or at least part of the reason, was because the alternatives weren't there. You know, we always thought that she was a horse that would want to go a distance of ground. You know, as she was coming along before she debuted, she just gave you that kind of indication. She's kind of a rangy filly, got a nice long stride once she gets into her gear. And the distance wasn't ever anything that we were terribly concerned about. I mean, you know, when you come in off of one sprint race, you know, being a trainer conservatively, obviously something you're concerned about, but she always gave the impression that that was not an issue. But going against winners, you know, in some cases in that race, multiple winners in the stake, you know, when you've got horses like Layla Noor and Shamrock Rose who had run in stakes in New York and were coming in there, I mean, we knew it was a big step up from the group that we had faced first time out. But, you know, when she drew the one hole again, really the key for me was not necessarily that we wanted to send her, but just that she needed to leave cleanly because we figured she'd put herself in a forward spot off the stretch out. She was a little keen early on, you know, around the first turn. But once she got some room, you know, she kind of scooted up the rail down the backside, hit the lead, and just kind of pricked her ears. And she's clipping along good fraction, you know, so you're a little concerned about it watching it, but she looks like she's going easy and having fun doing it. You know, I was really confident that if she got to the 5/16 pole or the quarter pole with a couple length margin, it was going to be tough to run her down because she's always shown us that, we haven't been able to get her thoroughly tired yet, either in the morning or in the afternoon. So, it worked out that the only horse that was kind of chasing her basically spitted about the 5/16, and she just opened up from there and just kept to her task, and she was green down the lane when Steve went, hitting her left-handed a couple of times. She switched to her left lead, but switched back. And it was obviously a very impressive performance. You didn't expect her to win by 7 by any means, but we're obviously very happy with what she did.
And give us your thoughts, obviously, on what you're expecting on Friday afternoon. Are you a numbers guy? I use the Beyers in my handicapping, and that 86 she fired last time, I think fits in really nicely with this bunch. Kieran's horse, Sarah Street, I think is tough. Midnight Disguise from Linda Rice. And Coach Rocks, Roddy Valente, owns the horse, and he's a regular in our Clubhouse Racebook, where our TV studio is in back of. So just the hometown guy we're kind of rooting for. But I think, that 86 kind of stacks up with those horses and beyond. So are you a numbers guy, and what are your expectations for Friday afternoon?
I like to look at as many sets of numbers as I can, whether that's Beyers, Thoroughgraph, Bragazin, Brisnet, anything you can put in front of me,
Sure.
I like just for comparative purposes. I grew up with Beyers, probably what I'm most comfortable with. I thought the debut number that she got, the 67, probably didn't accurately reflect the performance. So the 86 obviously looks like a huge jump. I kind of thought maybe she was, 7 or 8 points better on the debut. Still, that means it's a good jump in the second start. And the 86 does stack up pretty well with the horses that you mentioned. I think Kellen Gorder's filly, Red Ruby, probably rates a good chance in that race as well. But we like our chances. We think there's a little bit of speed, maybe CS in charge. Sarah Street obviously has shown the ability to go forward. For us, we just want her to lead cleanly. I don't know that she needs to be on the lead, but I think she's probably most comfortable right now being on the lead. If somebody really wants it inside of her, we'll probably try to sit and let them have it. How long she'll be able to rate, we'll kind of find out. She just kind of, wants to go compete. Seems like she's got a pretty high cruising speed. So I figure we'll be probably sitting first or second by the time, we get halfway down the backside. From there, it's a little bit like the Weber City. I mean, I'm more than happy, if she hasn't run herself out of the race early, getting too keen or something like that, chasing somebody in front of her. I'm more than happy to be a length or two in front, coming around the far turn and, letting them come and catch us. I realize there's some good fillies in there, and if they do get us, hats off to them. But there's no. She hasn't given us any reason, to think that she doesn't belong in that race.
Yeah, as I say, 2 for 2, and for me on the numbers, I think she fits really nicely. I'm looking forward to seeing her performance on Friday afternoon, as I'm sure you are. And we appreciate the time you spent with us today, and we wish you a lot of good luck in the Black Eyed Susan.
I appreciate it, Seth. Thank you.
Jason Egan with Good One Honey in the Black Eyed Susan. Jason Egan, and I think that horse, Good One Honey, has a live shot in the Black Eyed Susan this afternoon. So we'll see how that plays out. Certainly wish all our friends at West Point, clearly Roddy Valente, Dale Romans, Rick Pitino, Coach Rocks. We're hoping Roddy and the family can get it done in the Black Eyed Susan. So obviously got to root for the hometown favorites, but we'll see how it plays out this afternoon in the Black Eyed Susan. First post today at Pimlico will be 11:30. The Black Eyed Susan scheduled to go off at about 4:48 today. So Again, going to certainly be rooting for Coach Rocks and what looks like a fun edition of the Black Eyed Susan. On a nice stakes card to kick off the good stakes weekend. Black Eyed Susan Day with a good undercard of stakes races. You heard us talk earlier. 2, 6, and 8 today are off the turf. Dave Rodman, who joined us, says the turf course, however, is in good shape, and probably all the stakes will be very well suited to stay on the grass as they'll move after today's races, they'll move the rail and get to some virgin territory also. So, keep our fingers crossed because they have some really nice turf races scheduled for the next couple of days. But today, 2, 6, and 8 are off the turf at this point. The other turf races today are on. All right, don't forget, tomorrow, first 200 people through the door will receive a Preakness Collector's Glass. We'd love to see you down here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany for Preakness Day. That's tomorrow. Don't forget also tomorrow we kick off here on the network at 8 a.m. with the Handicappers Report / Racing Across America. Early start tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America / Handicappers Report, which kicked off about an hour and a half ago. Hopefully you got some good ideas for this afternoon and enjoyed a couple of interviews. Again, tomorrow we'll kick off at about 8. I'm going to interview John Service a little bit later on for tomorrow morning. He has Diamond King, who I think kind of an interesting potential upsetter. It would be a big upset, but interesting out of the Tessio win last time. That'll be tomorrow morning, again, kicking off at about 8 o'clock. Thanks to our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer. Great racing north of the border. Again, we're about an hour away from opening post time at Pimlico on this Friday. I'll be back in about an hour as we'll kick off an OTB Live for Friday afternoon. Until then, we're wrapping things up for this edition of Racing Across America. See you tomorrow morning as far as this program is concerned at 8 a.m.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.